This is the Map Scout Challenge brought to you by OnX, where we examine the map, assess features like terrain, habitat, and access, then go out and rip it apart in person.
And right now we're gonna show you the results, no holds barred, so that next time you go to public land, you have the confidence to scout, hunt, and kill whatever you're after.
Seriously just happened.
Led me to PHP and then led me to you guys.
We are in the Hoosier State, but we are not playing basketball. This is Indiana, and we are scouting for whitetails. Here's the deal. Illinois is a giant, big buck mega state, okay? The world record came from there. We did a video on that and scouted all that stuff. But Indiana is like the next door neighbor, and it is not far from where the world record was killed. So surely there's some big bucks here, and we're gonna go over here and scout it out and find some.
That's right, we are in the Anna. We're looking for deer, we're looking for turkeys, we're looking for chicken of the woods, we're looking for morels, what else? Black bears, black panthers, we're looking for it all, and we're gonna throw it down in this video right here. The things that we're looking at when we look at the aerial here are that this country looks steep. There are big drainages that come down into a big river basin off of this property. It looks to me like all the stuff kind of on top is farmed, which could be a good thing, but I think we're going to try to understand that people are going to be hunting those field edges a lot on this property if they are hunting. So we're going to look at a couple of little different things, try to use those big drainages and that elevation, that terrain, to help us find deer sign and project where they might be moving. So with that, let's get on into Indiana. What's the point of covering a bridge?
I mean, it's pretty close to the parking area. It would make sense. Could be.
There you go.
Kind of dry looking.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, they're usually little.
Are they really this big?
Yeah.
Let me get this.
Oh, I just picked my first morel. It's way more solid than I expected it to be.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that.
There's probably more around. So.
Yeah, we need to look. I just found my first morel mushroom ever, and I mean, this thing is the size of a bluegill. It's a giant. It makes me stoked. And I had no idea I was going to do this, but I'm about to mark this spot on my map on OnX, because apparently you can come back to the same place year to year and there'll be mushrooms around. So Tyler's kind of creeping around trying to scalp these mushrooms off of me, but I'm going to mark this on the map as the place to find mushrooms.
Yeah, I was hoping there'd be like one or two more.
I know.
They're here.
Yeah, I think we'll just first step into the woods. I think we'll find more.
Is it like a thing you need to stay with the same elevation and stuff, or are they going to be all around?
No, I think they're just kind of all around. So, I think it will.
We're doing our best to not have mushrooms on the brain, because deer are really what matters, but mushrooms are cool. I'm on this two-track, old two-track. You can see there's a log across it back here, and it's a one-track there. So what happened is probably some old logging road right here that used to come down through this ridge, but that log fell across it. They don't use it anymore, but the deer still do. And you can see a pretty main trail right here. And look, this right here, great licking branch, big scrape right here. A really great spot if you wanted to hang a camera and get inventory of really about near any deer that lives on this giant ridge right here. So I'm gonna mark this on the map to note that there's a good scrape here, which means there are bucks using the area. We just wanna find a little bit more of that rub, you know, a little bit more of that rut sign, a little bit more of that bedding sign, so we know kind of what we're dealing with, how many bucks, and kind of maybe even what size, depending on the size of the rubs. I see a giant morel, a freaking toad. Look at this son of a gun. This is bigger than the other one. Oh my gracious. Oh man. Oh, that's cool. There's gotta be more, right? Is that how it works? Is there more? Finally, we were almost about to give up on this place. And finally we found some rubs. This one right here got worked this year, probably earlier in the season. It's still a little bit old, but it's definitely this year. There's a bunch right here, older and maybe even this year, that have been hit. And whenever we were walking in, we're like, is that a saddle right up there? Does it look like a saddle? And sure enough, you can see where we have kind of a hill here and a rise over here. This is a saddle that you can catch bucks moving through. And I mean, that's a big tree, right? Pretty tall. Some of these are, I mean, like that one's broke over. That one's got fresh rub on it. There's some bucks in here, some good bucks.
We had it.
I mean, look at that right there. Tall rub. It was just, I'm gonna measure out the distance on the map and see how far we are from where we parked. Because I wonder if there's like a certain, you know, like all of a sudden.
It's old rub. There's also, I think, one thing you see like in mountain country back home and stuff, when I say back home, closer to home, we've seen in the past, like our Oklahoma videos, is you'll see these saddles. Essentially, it's kind of like where a hub scrape or several different things come together and make for different travel routes. So you've got this 2-track right here that's coming this way and a saddle coming this way. Two things perpendicularly meet, and then we've got a bunch of rubs right in here. And there's fresh tracks on this 2-track. So one of those things where like the 2-track kind of wants to scare us off, but I don't think there's a whole lot of action going down this 2-track, and it's far enough away and in a different angle coming, it's not coming from the parking lot, that I think there's probably not as many people using this as we think, you know?
0.6 of a mile from where we parked. And that's straight line. We had to go around the big hook of that creek. So it's definitely a good ways back in here. That's a big rub right there too. Look at that thing, that's tall. Look at that. Yeah, buddy. I know it's not fresh. It might not even be this past season, but it's the season before, if not this season. I mean, that bark's chipping off. But I mean, like, he's probably on the uphill, but that's still, you know, halfway between my chest and my waist. That's a tall rub. That's a good rub. Down that draw, or going to that other hill, other ridge. That's what we're looking for.
So I kind of pushed ahead while they were doing some stuff. We always try to put an optimistic spin on things, right? Because we don't want to discourage people from going out and getting in the woods. Here we are, 0.6 of a mile in. We got tape right here and a tree stand that was used this year in another little kind of mini saddle right here. I'm not sure that spot's not better, but you still got this hunter human presence here that kind of disappoints us. But then again, you know, I think you could get way further up in here and possibly get away from that stuff. So we'll probably make note of this, mark it, and continue down, try to find a couple little things, and then we might head out of here and try to just see what kind of staging habitat is happening up next to what looks like bean fields on the OnX map. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
I kind of want to peek right over this hill.
Yeah, no, I'm good with keeping on walking.
Yeah. We came out here to try to get some bugs to stay off of it.
That's what the beauty is. Well, maybe there is, but okay, so right now we are kind of crunched for time, and we decided to come up here and kind of look at something that might have a little bit more ag around it. Looks like it had brakes are going crazy. Looks like it had beans on it last season, and sure enough, there's a trail cutting across the White Rock right here that leads out into beans out here to the north.
And the edge of this warm season kind of fallow field right here from
Another
public.
trail right there.
Yeah, going up right there, still hitting that edge right there.
They're not going to be in the bottom of this creek. It's too steep.
Yeah.
Is this Vermont? Because I'm feeling the burn. Whew. Needed that to kind of get the blood flowing here. But we don't have a ton of time. We got to make it back in time to roost Eric's turkey. So there's just a strip right through these two fallow fields of taller trees that leads down to some agriculture right on the river. So we're going to just walk this, power scout it, and see if we find something good that makes us have confidence that there's some big bucks in here. It's cool because the road's like right there.
Yeah.
But like it's a big ride. So like
So it's like a pinch.
yeah, it's good seclusion too from the road, you know. Like, this deer ain't gonna worry about that.
Yeah.
Old rub. There. One on that locust tree too. But that's a good rub. It's on this farmer cut through, old cut through. That and there's this trail that's kind of following this tree line. I'm gonna mark this guy. That's some of the better sign that we found out here running around. Since you can hunt this, all season long, we're always thinking about October up here because it's a good place to come and kind of kill a cold front deer. But I mean, this is a heck of a rut funnel here. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Yeah. Very cool. Oh.
We were really excited about Indiana, but we didn't have a whole lot of time to be in the state that evening. We had other places to go. We had some turkeys to try to kill and other things that were going on that week. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time to spend there because I think we could have found a big butt. Oh my goodness. Indiana, in my opinion, is a sleeper state.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think there might not be pressure across the state, but localized pressure could be an issue.
Yeah, I do think that could be an issue as well. And I think that becomes an issue because there's lots of deer in the area. In this area in particular, we saw a lot of deer on the way in and moving around. And so I think that's something that people are chasing.
One of the things I noticed about the property as well is that it's kind of in a weird spot where mountainous kind of ridge country meets agriculture. And you have to figure out how that dynamic works.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's very steep as well. So there's a lot of implications that come along with that.
I would be interested to just learn what the trophy quality is on the property. That's one of the mysteries about Indiana is how big are the bucks? Are you looking at like tiny mountain bucks or big bucks?
Yeah. So let's talk about the localized pressure a little bit.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
I think that you're in a really remote part of the country. There's not a lot of people that live in this area. And we didn't see sign of a ton of people. But just like most places that you map scout, you can't just cherry pick because everybody has cherry picked. We walked in about 3/4 of a mile and there was a ladder stand set up in a really good spot.
Well, these are the type of people that hunt in the remote rural areas, right? So, you may not have a ton of people there in that area living, but a lot of them are hunting and they kind of know what they're doing, some of them. So, I think personally that you can use this terrain a lot to help you understand where the deer are going to be. And I think one thing that we run into a lot when we look at localized pressure is there are places like, for instance, here in Texas where we'll go 1.5 miles back in because we see something on the map or something, or we want to go check this out. And right where we start to find good sign or where we had picked on the map, there's a stand in the tree. And it's like, man. And I'll tell a little story. I don't know if I've said this on a Map Scout Challenge yet, but one time I went out with the Texas Parks and Wildlife here, and we did some, they were doing an electroshocking survey for fish on a lake here locally. And I found the one spot that they took us to where we really just like shocked up a bunch of fish was a spot that there's just docks everywhere. There's a marina right next. I mean, it gets fished all the time, guaranteed. High pressure area, but it's just like when the habitat is right, then you will find deer in that area, and they will find a way to get around pressure, and they'll move a little bit here and there throughout the season. But there are just some areas that are just too good to not hunt just because one guy's in there every once in a while.
What makes something a sleeper state?
I think basically it doesn't get a whole lot of press in the whitetail world. You know, I think there's some states that are really starting to come on and become not such sleeper states anymore, and that just has to do with YouTube videos.
Those darn YouTubers.
A lot of YouTubers are going to them and finding and showing, you know, that there are big deer, lots of deer in the states. And I think, you know, Indiana sits in a place kind of between Ohio, Michigan, which has like a heavy, you know, heritage of deer hunting, and then Illinois and some of these other Midwestern states that have had huge deer killed out of them. And it just kind of sits right in there where it doesn't get a whole lot of press for some reason, one reason or another. Maybe somebody from Indiana could, you know, pipe in on the comments here below and let us know why people don't talk about it.
Because they play basketball instead.
That's right.
Yeah.
They don't have time for deer hunting. they got to go ball. What do you think the trophy quality is in this area? Is that the reason this is a sleeper state that's not quite as high as Illinois or something like that? Or
Well, it's hard to say it's as high as Illinois because that's where the world record came from. And we did a Map Scout Challenge video. Go check that out. And in the world record county. That's less than 100 miles from here. So you got to assume that, like, the genetics are pretty close. So I would think that you're definitely not looking at, you know, East Texas 8s very often up there in Indiana in this area. I don't know. I think we would want to hang trail camera on the spot and see, you know, what shows up, or a couple of them, and see what's around. But it's got to be pretty good. You know, it's upper Midwest, man. That's where big deer live.
Yeah, and I mean, the deer we saw obviously didn't have horns, but there were some big-bodied does around and stuff. I mean, you can tell that the genetics there are of a big deer. And I think with the ag around, the steep country, kind of the remoteness of it as well, the opportunity for those deer to kind of disappear in the hills and in the you know, steep canyons or hollers. That is probably a better term. I think that these deer have the ability to escape hunters a lot. And I think that there's a lot of deer in the area for that, which is a good thing. I think you have the opportunity to see a lot of deer when you go and you sit in the right spot. But there wasn't a crazy amount of sign, which was kind of perplexing a little bit. Of course, we're in probably the worst time of year when we're up there to find sign. I mean, it literally, if a deer steps on a piece of grass, that thing's grown 3 inches by the end of the week, you know? So it's a weird time to be in the woods trying to find deer sign.
Yeah, but it looks like deer country, right?
Yeah,
I mean, So let's check out the map and kind of look at some of this deer country and maybe talk about some of the spots that we checked out and places that you should hunt. So this is a really big property. I think that if we wanted to take our time, we could find probably tens of places to hunt, right? Not a tens unit, but like over 10 a piece, easy on the map. But we kind of wanted to zone in on just a few and just talk about them. Of course, there are these places that are just fingers that lead up into agriculture. That's the stuff we walked around and scouted some and didn't see a ton of sign, and I think it's probably a lot of it's pressure related. I really do. So I do think, however, there are some little overlooked spots on this place, maybe even next to the road. I know that when we drove in, we went across this bridge right here, and that's a cornfield, and there were trails going nuts going to this cornfield right here. So I believe that this big ridge system right here that sits partially on public and on private is going to have a lot of deer on it. And for a November place, this little finger of timber right here actually has a lot of potential.
Y'all walked that, right?
We did. You dropped us off right here, and we just made a quick little jaunt through here. This is some regrowth, probably a ton of bedding out here in this stuff. We didn't tear it up, but this is all 6 to 10 foot tall trees and grasses and stuff. And there actually is a little farmer's gap right here where they used to go, you know, farm this down here and that up there. And there was some real good rubs right there in that gap. So I think that for a rut hunt, you probably could get in there and sit on a trail and actually feel like you're doing pretty good, even though you're pretty close to the road. Because, man, most of you guys are not going to look at that and be like, I want to hunt that because there's no trees and it's close to the road. No one says that, you know. But if you get out and tear up whitetail country, you know that there doesn't have to be super tall trees for the deer to be there.
Yeah, that's a good spot, man. I like it. You convinced me. This is the spot that we parked right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add a little spot to show where we parked right here. Where's the truck? Right there. Okay, so when we parked there and we went in, so our internet's kind of slow here. We went in and went down this big ridge system.
We went in. Yeah, you're right.
Right down in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically you can see it, but right here is an old, it's not old. They're still using it to come in here and check stuff out. The game department, Fish and Game or DNR or whatever is coming in to look at it. But basically it joins up with this logging road that goes in through here. And so I think guys want to park there and walk in down that road. That's kind of just leads you down in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think if you go off here to the east and kind of skirt this private land here, you can get into some really, really remote stuff back in here. And I think what you're going to look at is going through this big, steep creek system or holler system down here, maybe going around the top of this, or however you'll have to figure out your access once you get in here. You maybe run a few cameras in here during the early season or whatever and get some data you can use this year and next year. But I like this little bitty hole back here right on the top of this big ridge. You've got opportunity for deer to bed, bucks to bed on the edge of these this big flat ridge spot right here, and then obviously all these other sides of the ridge, this big ridge that is, it's a massive ridge that goes through. And so on this hole right here, I noticed actually it looks like there's maybe a trail or so right in here too, maybe right in here, and I think you're gonna maybe find some scrapes in here that are on top of the ridge, on the edge of these trees that border the edge of this opening right here. So maybe it's a spot that you can find a scrape and kill a deer in late October all the way through November that's cruising this ridge system, maybe kind of scent checking one side or the other. But I don't necessarily have a spot. I think this is a great spot to start and maybe run some trail cameras, do a little bit of scouting, and figure out where you can hunt on this ridge. But I like the fact that this is a big, wide ridge that deer can travel.
It's almost an absolute that there would be scrapes there.
You would think, man.
It's just, that's a scrapey looking spot, especially with that big ridge to the north that drops off. There's going to be deer bedded back in here, or in there. I'm south of you here just as another little area to look at. We walked in right here, found mushrooms right there, so y'all don't go there. That's where we found that ladder stand right there, and I think I might have taken a picture of it.
Sure enough.
Right there. Look at there.
Yeah.
So probably don't want to hunt right there. You go all the way down, the ridge drops off, but there's also like this secondary road that people can come in from this direction. But man, there's just so much terrain going on right here. I think your wind could get real weird right in there. But I noticed this hill, and then here's the main ridge right here. And I'm sure there's some kind of a drainage or whatever right here, but this almost has got to be a funnel or a saddle of some sort, right? So like, it's almost as if this used to be a whole ridge and then eroded down and this got left out here. But with this much terrain right in here, there's some deer living back in there, because that's just a hole, that's almost just going to be impenetrable for a human. So I think that for a rut hunt, even maybe late October, whenever deer hitting acorns, or mid-October, or whatever it is, that there's possibility of having a real good hunt kind of in that gap right there.
Yeah, there's some good flat spots around that ridge too for deer to kind of bed and cruise on and stuff.
And if you remember, last year we did a Map Scout Challenge in Missouri. I had a place that reminded me a lot of this place.
Yeah,
it's
and
a place,
that was one of our best trail camera pulls with us.
We had some big bucks on that thing.
Yeah.
And those bucks were kind of holding on that habitat line, or I guess even terrain line of where, the hills met the river bottom. And this is a creek, but it's a big drainage, same difference. We didn't find as much out in here in that Missouri one as what we wanted to. But in a place a lot like right here, we found... That's where we hung a camera and got some big
There also
deer.
was a 2-track that we basically hung the camera on.
Yeah.
And saw all those big bucks, and they were daylight walking on it. So that's very similar. I like that a lot, man. So anyway, like he mentioned earlier, the Edgar County, Illinois World Record County, that video is in the description below, so go check that out. And remember, this is your element.
Living it.